A doorkeeper could be seen on the left of your screen running into the Commons chamber this afternoon with news that something serious was happening outside. A short time later, the Deputy Speaker called proceedings to a halt.
Order! I am now going to suspend the sitting of the House. This House is now suspended, but please wait here.
In fact, MPs were then kept in the chamber for nearly 5 hours while police cleared the Palace of Westminster.
The very clear advice from the police and the Director of Security in the House is that we should remain under suspension and that the chamber should remain in lockdown until we receive advice that it is safe to go back to normal procedures.
Other MPs had been near the scene of the attack on their way to vote.
I looked round, but what was unusual, all the police had their guns drawn and I'm hearing bang, bang. It sounded to me 4, bang, bang, like this. And within a moment, so I realised this was now not your standard sort of protester climbing over a fence. And suddenly a policeman appears. He said, get down, hit the floor, get back, get to safety, and had all the MPs kind of just hit the ground.
And I heard the gunshots, and then people started yelling and obviously saying, get down, get back to the main building, and that's what we did. So it all happened very quickly, and then obviously we picked up from TV and from Twitter what was actually happening outside.
What was the atmosphere like in the House?
I think in Portcullis House, where lots of us were, and that was a mixture of MPs, members of the public, obviously been visiting, MP staff, journalists. It was shock, concern about what was happening or what was unfolding outside.
While offices were checked, those MPs not in the chamber, lords, journalists and other staff were herded into Westminster Hall and other parts of the Palace of Westminster, where the shock of what had happened began to sink in.
Probably about 400 members locked in for several hours in members' lobby, and as we were picking up what was happening, I think the sense of shock did deepen. It's less than a year since Jo Cox was killed, and it rather brought home the vulnerability, and there was a real sadness, deep sadness in the House when we heard that the police officer who'd been attacked had died, and I think that really brought home to us that it's not about just MPs at all. It's actually there are many people who work hard to protect our democracy, and he's lost his life for doing that.
And tonight, the Home Secretary paid tribute to those whose job it is to protect.
We have the best police, the best security services in the world, and we must make sure that we let them get on with doing their job. The British people will be united in working together to defeat those who would harm our shared values.
Whilst the Leader of the Opposition said security would have to be reviewed.
Clearly there is obviously an issue about that security. Clearly there will be the deepest possible inquiry into that. But it's everybody that must be kept safe. Everybody, whether they're in Parliament or outside Parliament. And this was an attack on people going about their normal day-to-day business. They were office workers, they were people going home from work, they were tourists visiting London, people going about their normal business.
And the Mayor of London had this to say about the ideology behind the attack on his city.
It's worth reminding ourselves there's a very good reason why the terrorists want to attack our way of life and destroy our way of life. They can't stand the fact that here in Westminster, here in London, we have a thriving democracy. We enjoy civil liberties and human rights. Christian, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, those who are members of an organised faith and those who aren't, live together, not just peacefully, respectfully, celebrating each other, embracing each other. We're not going to allow them to divide us.
And neither will they be allowed to hold up the business of Parliament. Both the Commons and the Lords will sit tomorrow as they normally do, even though Westminster feels anything but normal. Carl Dinnan, ITV News, Westminster.